Greetings, everyone, and welcome back for our April team training for teams who are in their first year of the PBIS Academy. I'm Christine Downs, and I'm a trainer for PBIS. And this presentation was developed with the support of the PBIS network. So today, we're going to review the assessment tools on PBIS assessments, including the self-assessment survey, often called the SAS, the school climate survey, and the tiered fidelity inventory, or the TFI. Teams this month are asked to complete their team checklist, TIC, also on PBIS assessments, and we will be scheduling your TFI for now through June. Some really wonderful readings are available this month. The first one is called Tidy Up with the TFI. And this article is on PBIS apps, same place PBIS assessments is located. And it can help you sort through the different assessment tools and decide which tool is right to use for your school. It's a good companion for today's training. The next one, 3 ways to ensure school is a place everyone wants to be, also on PBIS apps, is an article that is a follow-up to Tidy Up with the TFI. So it continues on where that one ends. And it helps you create clear action steps to ensure the fidelity of implementation to PBIS. The two TFI companion guides on the right here, the Cultural Responsive Field Guide and TFI Companion Tool, and the Integrated TFI Companion Guide. Both help you look at your implementation through a lens of either cultural responsiveness or mental health. And they're really wonderful. You can do your TFI and then even elaborate further. And the last resource we have here are descriptions and hard copies of all the assessments we're going to be talking about and that are housed on PBIS assessments. So that's a great thing if you want to print it out and actually look through the different questions that are going to be on each of those surveys. But we want to remind you that all of those surveys can be done electronically. So don't give yourselves a headache by getting everything done on paper first, because then someone will have to enter every single one. Okay, we want you to do that electronically. So first, we want to be sure that you have completed the team implementation checklist. So if you haven't already, pause this video, go to pbisapps.org, log in, or if you're not the coach, ask your coach to log in and complete the team checklist as a team. This is not an individual assessment. If your team has already completed it, I suggest that you review your reports and the graphs and compare your results to previous administrations. And then add any items that you scored either a 0 or a 1 to your action plan to work on in the future. And try to identify at least one thing you can celebrate with your team or with your staff. Don't forget, they're not going through these trainings. They don't see these surveys. So it's important that you share this with them. And having some nice data in a graph form that you can show them, especially if you've increased your scores, can be really a boost to everyone. They understand that you're moving forward. Okay, so we're going to now go through the self-assessment survey, the school climate survey, and the tiered fidelity inventory. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is the self-assessment survey. And this is a progress monitoring survey, which also measures fidelity to implementation. How well are we implementing? It asks staff's perception of implementation status for different aspects of PBIS, and I'm going to show you some of those questions in the next slide. It asks staff to rate whether that feature is in place, partially in place, or not in place. And then it asks them to note, in their opinion, the priority for improvement, meaning is it a high priority, a medium priority, or a low priority to improve that feature. And it breaks down the survey into 4 categories: school-wide, classroom, non-classroom areas, and then individual student systems. It does take about probably 20 to 30 minutes to complete the survey. There is an electronic link you can send to your staff. We highly recommend you give your staff some time to complete this, perhaps at a staff meeting or a PD event. You will get greater response that way. We really want to try to get at least 80% of your staff response rate. This is for all staff, not just classroom teachers. So you want your paraeducators, your other support staff in your building, special areas teachers, even secretaries, and so on. Everybody in your building as you can get. And we recommend you do this annually. So although we're saying try to get your whole staff, there might be some times where you want to administer this survey and just have paraeducators complete it, or just have specials teachers complete it. So you really can get a sense of whether they have a different opinion from the whole school body. Here's an example of how the survey looks. You can see the features right down the center, and then here's the current status. Well, they'll be able to click a radio button that answers whether they think it's in place partially or not, and then their opinion for how high of a priority for improvement they think this item is. And if you look through these features, you can see they're very much the specific features of PBIS. So do you have a small number of positively stated student expectations or rules that are defined? Well, that would be your matrix. And if staff don't understand that that's what the matrix is, they might say that's not in place. You as a team may then realize, no, this is certainly in place. We're not doing a good enough job communicating that to staff. So sometimes some of the results here might be a lack of communication between your team and the faculty and the staff, or it could be that you truly have not gotten that piece rolled out yet. So you may not have worked on your consequences for problem behaviors yet. If that comes out not in place and a high priority, you can let staff know, we're going to be working on that shortly, or it's coming up, and we're going to present that to you. So these should look very familiar: teaching behavior, rewarding behavior, and so on. One of the graphs that it will produce is very much like your team checklist or has produced. It will break it into bars, and this is a school who has taken it 3 times. You can see expectations defined in the dark green bar, and they've gone up significantly each time they took it. The light green is expectations taught, then the reward system, the violation system, the monitoring system, the management system, which is data, monitoring is data and management is the team. Sorry about that. And then your district support. And it gives an overall implementation average. And we're trying to get that to be about 80%. So you can see that as they took it, they pretty much went up in most things. In a few areas, they did come down. And that could be for a variety of reasons. Another report called the item report is actually my favorite because you can check a box that adds highlighting to your report, like is shown here. And the first time we take it, we see it's often completely red. So don't be discouraged if yours looks like this. The red areas say that they indicate that the staff felt that it was below 50% in place, or less than 50% of the staff thought it was in place. Once it gets over 50%, those items will move to yellow if it's between 51% and 79%. And then anything 80% or above will show up in this white color. So you can see from one year to the next, they implemented PBIS, staff saw it being implemented, and then when they took it the next time, they were able to definitely indicate that those things were in place and things were doing much better. And now these red areas can be your high priority areas for your action plan going forward. And you can always come back and show this. And I think once you've taken it twice and you have this difference, it really speaks volumes to the staff. We highly recommend this. Again, once a year. Here's another example of how this looks, a little zoomed in on it. So if you are interested in administering this to your staff, let your trainer know. We will open it up for you, meaning you tell us the dates. You might want it open for a 2-week period. You might have everyone doing it in one day. So you might say, we just need it open for 1 or 2 days, make sure everybody does it, and then we're going to close it. You will not be able to run the reports until it is finished. Once you run the reports, you can't add any more surveys to it. So you can see up here, it says 75 responses, and you'll be able to look and see how many people have completed it before you run the reports. So if you see it's only 12 people, you can reach out to your trainer and say, can you open that for another 2 weeks? We're going to really push our people, or give them time to finish it. And then we can extend your time and people can continue to take the survey. Again, once you complete the survey period and then you run the reports and it compiles everything, then that's set. You can't add any more surveys to it. Okay, the next survey we're going to cover is the school climate survey. This assesses students, staff, and families' perspective of the overall climate in your building. Right? This survey not only asks climate type questions, but also some demographic questions about the responders. So you can look at it by different groups. There are 2 student formats, one for elementary students that goes really grades 3 through 6. 6 can go either way. And then there's middle high school that goes 6 to 12. So depending on the level building you're at, if you're an elementary school that goes up to 6th grade, you can use the elementary survey. Otherwise, if you're a middle school that's 6 through 8, you probably give everybody the middle school, high school one. There's also a survey to give staff and one to give families. So if you don't do something currently like Panorama, this is a wonderful thing to use. And you can administer it to just the students or students and staff or maybe families, and they can be done at different times of the year if you wish. Typically, we do them maybe in the fall or at the end of the school year. Don't do them too close to the beginning of the school year because you need time for staff and students to kind of get that sense, the feeling of the climate. So you don't want to do it the second week of school. But maybe by the end of October might be a good time to do it if you're going to do it in the fall. I know this is small, but these are some examples of the student surveys. You can see there are demographic questions about their gender, their ethnicity and race, and their grade. For the older students, we ask those same things, but we also ask, there's also questions about sexual orientation that is added to that. And then there's a survey questions. And you can see these survey questions are very straightforward, right? I like school, right? That's the same on that. I feel successful at school. Good behavior is noticed at my school, right? I know an adult at school that I can talk with if I need help. So kind of gives you this example of their feeling of the climate of the school. And here's some of the survey results and graphs that you can generate from there. You can get an overall score. And obviously, as we move up towards 4, that's what we're looking for. There are some normative data that you can compare it to on PBIS apps, and we can show you that if you do this survey. And you can break it down by item. So these are all the various questions that were asked in that survey. You might go back and say, oh, you know, question 1 scored quite low. Let's go back and look at that question 1, which was, do I like school? Right, we can look at the ones that are higher and kind of start to create an action plan. You can also look at these same questions either overall, so these ones are overall by male and female, just general score, and we can compare. So in the first time, you know, guys were a little higher than girls. You can break it down by grade level, right? So here, 3rd grade, they've increased in their scores as they go up. Maybe this school really made an effort to welcome 3rd graders or do something different for 3rd graders that made them feel safer or more connected to the school. Sometimes we see things go down, and again, it went back up, so that was good. And it tells you how many students answered for each grade level. So here there were 7, 7, 27. It can also be broken down to individual questions by a subset. So just how did girls answer? How did Latino students answer? How did gay students answer, right? You can really break that down. Let's see here. So again, if you don't have another climate survey being administered in your building, this is a good one. And let us know if you'd like to take this one as well. And the last one I'm going to cover is the tiered fidelity inventory. This is a true fidelity measure. We as external coaches and support staff to you will come in and help you do this assessment. First, there is a walkthrough component, and we can do this remotely over Zoom, where we're going to interview approximately 15 students and 15 staff. And we're going to ask them a few questions, 2 questions for students, 3 questions for adults. So it goes quite quickly. Those questions help answer a few of the items within the inventory. It will ask, did 90% of your students, did they know the expectations? Could they tell us safe, respectful, responsible? Did a certain percentage of staff deliver a reinforcement? So that kind of thing. It probably, there's 3 tiers, tier 1, 2, and 3. Our academy will only be administering tier 1. And it does probably take between 30 minutes and sometimes up to an hour if it's the first time. And we'll be asking to kind of go a little bit deeper and look for evidence. Okay, so when we go through it, there'll be the feature here. It'll say something like, does the school have clearly defined behavior expectations and a matrix? And is that posted? So it will say it here. And then it will say possible data sources. So posters on the wall, a matrix, you know, and we'll, as the evaluators, ask to see some of that to really ensure that it's happening. This isn't like the checklist where it's like, yep, we have it, we have it. How well have we rolled it out to staff? How well have we implemented it? And then there's always the criteria. And for the TFI, it's very specific what will get you a 0, a 1, or a 2. Okay. And you can see down here, there are 2 items that relate to the teams. There are 9 items that relate to implementing PBIS. And there are 4 items that evaluation, your data. Okay. And again, it will give you some graphs. These are the overall scores for each tier. Again, we're only going to be doing tier 1. And excuse me. Then, like you saw, it breaks it down into teams, implementation, and evaluation. And you can see how the first time, pretty low scores, and that's traditional. This is sort of your baseline data. And then the next time you take it, it should do significantly better. For the TFI, we're looking for an overall implementation at the 70% level. That says that you're implementing PBIS at tier 1 with full fidelity. And some of those results you're seeing can be traced hopefully back to PBIS implementation. Okay. As I said before, there are 2 companion guides. The integrated companion guide has both the mental health and the culturally responsiveness pieces embedded into it. So you really only need this guide. And it will take the item that's just a regular traditional TFI item like this one. A written process is used to orient all faculty and staff on the 4 core tier 1 practices, which are teaching the expectations, acknowledging the appropriate behavior and expectations, correcting the errors, and requesting more support. So you as a team might say, yes, we have a handbook. We go over with our faculty and staff when they come back to school in August. They get retrained on all of those areas and reviewed. And then anytime a new staff enters our school, we review it. If they come and we hire them mid-year, we review all this as part of new hire training. So if you had that and you showed us the book, we would say, well, that would give you a full 2 on your score for this item number 7. However, you could still elaborate even if you get a 2, and you could say, do we want our matrix and our training to not only be about that straightforward behavior, but do we want to incorporate some wellness principles and some mental health and trauma-informed principles and language? So you might look at that and embellish and elaborate what you're doing so that the way we speak to students, the way we correct errors, we use a language and a tone so that we don't re-traumatize students. So that would be a way of elaborating on what you already do. And that is something we don't expect you to go through every question and go from initial implementation to full elaboration. But each year you could take a question or 2 and evaluate it and say, can we elaborate a little more fully? Okay, so those are the ones we are going over today. You should take time now to pull up your meeting schedule and talk to your your trainer about scheduling a TFI if you can. Reach out to them. We also want you to spend some time going back and going over those 10 getting started steps that we've been working on all year. Think about, is your team running efficiently? Do we have a statement of purpose? How does our matrix look? Is that completed? Are our lesson plans completed? Where are we at with those? Do we need to create more over the summer so we're ready for kickoff in the fall? Do we have a schedule? Now, this one's really important. How are we going to do that teaching in the fall? After this pandemic and with everyone coming back, we highly recommend that you do training in stations so that all the staff and all the students are getting the same training and they move throughout the building and go from station to station, from the hallway to the cafeteria, maybe to the bathroom, a simulated bus area, right? All those different places so that the teacher is watching the lesson, the students are watching the lesson, everyone's on the same page. I think that will really help the structure and support of coming back after such an odd year as we've had this year with remote learning and such. Do remember that PBIS is well balanced. So we have all these proactive things, but that we are going to have that continuum for responding as well as acknowledging. So we're going to acknowledge the appropriate behavior, make sure everybody knows how that acknowledgement system works, but we also have this system for responding. So do we have clear definitions for our problem behaviors? Have we divided up class and office managed behaviors and created one of those flow charts or a grid for how to respond? Those are really important. And then lastly, we started talking about database decision-making, sharing our data, our discipline data, our attendance data, all sorts of data we're collecting. Are we looking at it to make decisions and then sharing that back with staff? Okay, and supporting our staff as well. They need to be acknowledged and supported. So think about all of those things. Think about planning for next year, getting all your team meetings on a calendar so that they're in place, getting your PD, getting on the agenda for your staff meetings, all of these things. The more you can do ahead of time, the more it will pay off next year. Okay. So in May, our content will be family engagement and a continuation of planning for the beginning of next year. And your team tasks will be to take the family school partnership survey together, and you'll have time to plan. So thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, and we will see you soon.